This video is to introduce our Module 9, Reading Fluency, and the objectives of this module are to define the key concepts of reading fluency, to discuss the relationship between fluency and comprehension, and to develop some instructional practices that will help you promote fluency for all learners. The module will also look into some forms of assessment and will also help you to apply the knowledge you get from fluency assessments to make instructional decisions. Let's define fluency. Fluency is reading a text at the right rate with accuracy, expression, and phrasing. Fluency develops in stages. The goal for our students is to be able to read fluently a text that is both complex and connected. When we talk about fluency, we want to talk about effective fluency instruction. When we talk about fluency, we want to consider effective fluency instruction. And when we talk about effective instruction, we have to talk about explicit and systematic instruction. Fluency is a predictor of reading comprehension in English. So it is very important that we use explicit instruction, and explicit instruction includes modeling, systematic instruction with scaffolding, multiple opportunities for a student to practice and respond, and immediate and corrective feedback. It is important to use assessments to determine which students need more fluency instruction and to identify specific areas of weaknesses to plan for instruction. When we talk about fluency, we have to think about the complexity of the skill because fluency relies on decoding skills, prosody, and also on our ability to assess the kids to determine their needs.
Through the building and sustaining foundational language skills strand, students develop skills to become proficient readers. Two key skills for proficient readers are fluency and self-sustained reading. From 1st to 5th grade, the TEKS require students to build reading fluency, or the ability to read text at appropriate rate and without significant word recognition difficulties. Students are expected to read grade-level texts with fluency and comprehension. In other words, students should be able to accurately read a text at an appropriate pace and with appropriate expression while understanding the information they have read. Students demonstrate fluency when they read and comprehend text without significant interruptions when they encounter new or complex information. In middle school, the focus shifts from developing fluency to learning to adjust fluency based on their reading purpose. Students learn how and when to adjust the elements of fluency, such as pace or expression, based on their purpose for reading. For example, a student who is reading for entertainment may read at a much faster rate than a student who's reading to learn complex information for the first time. Students develop skills to adjust fluency appropriately. Proficient readers are also adept at self-selecting text and reading independently. When students self-select text, they choose books, stories, articles, or other texts based on their personal interests. To self-select text, students should be familiar with a variety of different types of text and understand their purpose for reading. Providing students at all grade levels with frequent opportunities to read independently for sustained periods of time also improves reading proficiency. Students should build their stamina for reading a variety of grade level appropriate text by reading for increasingly longer periods of time. Student readers should also have skills and strategies to navigate challenging ideas or vocabulary they might encounter in the text and successfully progress through the text on their own. Teachers should encourage students of all ages to independently explore books and practice reading fluently with comprehension. These skills aid students to not only become more proficient readers, but also develop a lifelong passion for reading. Click on the Resources tab for these student expectations to view resources related to fluency and self-sustained reading.
Next address Now that we have considered how the TICs address fluency, let's talk a little bit about the adaptive action cycle. While we work with these assessments and when we work with children and while we work with fluency assessments and the children in our classrooms, we want to raise questions and we want to know what patterns do we see. We want to know the meaning of those patterns, and we also want to consider what we can do to shape this. We also want to consider what we need to do. We also want to consider what we need to do in order to shape these patterns. When we are talking about in any type of reading instruction, we have to use the explicit and systematic instruction. When we talk about explicit instruction, we talk about the direct and purposeful teaching of skills and concepts. All students benefit from explicit instruction when we are teaching new skills. All students benefit from explicit instruction when what we are teaching is a completely new concept. When we have novice learners, they benefit from this type of guided instruction. All students benefit from explicit instruction when what we are teaching is a completely new concept. When we talk about systematic instruction, we're talking about instruction that has been carefully planned and sequenced, and instruction that addresses the simple concepts first and then introduces concepts that are more complex. We have a progression of the skills. Students benefit from explicit and systematic instruction to gain and build reading and writing proficiency. What are the things that factor into oral reading fluency? There are several things that contribute to reading fluency. Background knowledge is one of the things that contribute. Oral language, vocabulary, phonological awareness, alphabet knowledge, and decoding skills. These all work together to develop students' fluency. The module is going to give you. From this content, we can make connections to other areas. This module is going to make connections to other content area This module is going to make connections with other content area subjects, and this module is going to lead you into making connections to other content areas. It's going to give you ideas on how to foster and develop fluency in math, science, social studies, and in other cross-curricular activities. If you have the opportunity, please reflect on one thing that you plan to incorporate from this module into your own teaching, and one question that you still have about reading fluency. Now that we have gotten to the end, I want to remind you that there is an upcoming summative format. Now that we have gotten to the end of the video, I want to remind you that Module 10 has Now that we have gotten to the end of this video, I want to take a minute to remind you that there is a summative artifact in Module 10 that you may want to take a look. Now that we have discussed Module 9, I would like to take a minute to remind you that we have an upcoming summative artifact in Module 10, and you may want to take a look at before you get to Module 10. Work with and consult teams as you go through the modules. Use all your resources when completing the post-test, and contact me if you need an alternate timeline. If you need to reach me, you can reach me via Teams, Outlook, or we can set up a quick Zoom call. If you have any questions, reach out. I'm always here to help. Have a great day.